he thinks if Dom was more charismatic on camera, that he'd be one of America's favorite fighters. And he has a point. We've seen him before. I mean, if you watch The Ultimate Fighter, the dude isn't afraid to just kind of talk to anyone how he wants to talk to them.
Yeah.
So I like that. That was one of my catches. I thought it was a fun episode, even though, yes, they do ramble off and go off topic quite a bit. But Chael, I always kind of like the angles Chael kind of brings to some of the matchups, or him playing matchmaker. And of course, there's always just a meme, just how good is this guy? Yeah, yada yada yada. And the fighter I think of when he said it is definitely Max Holloway, considering what's been going on in that featherweight division.
Yeah, definitely. Also, technically, I guess we are streaming on YouTube as of right now because I'm streaming the audio. So shouts to YouTube. Despite you being a piece of shit, I would still be able to get the audio streaming. So, yeah, man, that was a solid episode overall. I mean, everybody loves a good Donald Cowboy Cerrone story, and Joel is hilarious.
Oh yeah, as long as there's no brother sin.
Exactly. Jesus Christ, fucking brother sin. I don't even think that podcast exists anymore.
There's no way it does.
Joel wasn't on it for a while after. I don't know what happened.
Wasn't his son on there? And he's probably just like, Dad, this is fucking ridiculous. We need to stop.
I'm not sure, but yeah, it was that show is a fucking mess. But anyway, yeah, so we will go ahead and keep on moving on. But they had another good episode that I will actually, you know what? I'm calling it audible. I'm going to add the other episode they did this week, Joel and Chael, as my other catch.
All right.
And that one was Team Quest stories. And it mostly is only on this list because of the Team Quest stories. So Joel is back in studio, and he talks about Kane. They talk a bit about Kane's return finally. And of course, both of them being giant wrestling fans, like amateur wrestling fans, that they are super hyped about Kane's return, but also kind of curious to see what he actually looks like.
I mean, I think we all are. Wasn't his last fight like July of 2016, or was it after?
Yeah, it was UFC 200.
So is that?
I believe it was actually the first episode where our podcast feed was live.
I think you're right. Wow, I didn't realize he's been gone for that long. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's been a long time. That was the Travis Brown fight.
Oh yeah, he went and like fucking tried to kick him right in the face, or he did a spinning heel kick. Yeah.
Which was ridiculous. But yeah, it's just a solid episode. Chael mentioned a couple different times that they're getting pretty close to signing the Brock and DC fight.
Okay.
Like, he mentioned it 3 or 4 times, and half mentioned that he had insider info on that, and that it was definitely probably going to happen.
I mean, I don't see why not at this point. We've already seen what USADA is capable of when it comes to picograms and John Jones, so there's no reason why this fight is not happening, and it will happen probably, I would guess, July, just because they want to just delay everything again and just say, oh, International Fight Week, fuck you.
Well, and DC's hurt right now with the back injury still.
Yeah, and I mean, shouts out to Stipe. He's that dude's probably just going to keep waiting. I mean, I would if I was him. Right. I mean, you could just make that argument like, I defended my belt, like, 4 times, so fuck everyone. So, yeah, I don't know. Sucks for him, but shit happens. So, DC's just trying to make some money before he retires. I still don't think John Jones is going to fight DC again. So, I don't.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm not convinced either way on that one yet. I don't. That feels like the kind of fight DC might go out on, but I'm not sure. It kind of depends on how everything lines up too. But it should be pretty interesting overall. Let's see. There's some other stuff they talked about, which is this is mostly why it's a catch for me. It's a bunch of old Team Quest stories. Joel tells a story about Randy sparring Tim Sylvia a bunch in the lead up to their fight, and he kept calling Tim Sylvia the Giant, which I'm sure did not help Tim Sylvia's body dysmorphia issues. Let's see. Matt Lindland. Joel says Matt Lindland invented road rage. He also says that at one point Matt got in a street fight, got hit with a bat in the face, then got his jaw wired shut, and Matt pulled the wires out of his jaw with pliers so he could wrestle in a wrestling tournament.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's a crazy story. There's crazy stories about Hendo sparring and how eventually Hendo would always throw the right hand with full power and then pretend like it wasn't full power. There's crazy stories about Baroni and Evan Tanner sparring super fucking hard. It's just cool hearing all the old Team Quest stories, which is my favorite part about when Joel and Chael get together.
And this is the Team Quest that's still based out of, like, Oregon, right? Like Westland or kind of near the area?
Yeah, I don't know if it really exists like it did. I don't know if it exists at all, actually, anymore.
Kind of more like an affiliation of fighters.
Yeah, because, like, most of those guys, like, a lot of that team moved out to Vegas to Extreme Couture, or, like, Dan Henderson started his own gym, and Chael is up with Fabiano up in Oregon with Jake Smith and Paige and all them. Speaking of which, Paige's husband got the sub, I heard, tonight in Bellator. We're recording this on Friday.
I saw that. It was really nice. And unfortunately for his opponent looked like he didn't have any fight shorts, and he literally put boxers over, like, his cup girdle, or a cup, those athletic pants, like they look like sliding pants. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, no, that's a great look. Compression shorts.
Yeah, it was pretty. The guy, like, is this guy like? He's like, fuck it, put the boxers on. It was pretty weird. But that guy lost. Definitely not in style. So
yeah, I mean, Bellator sure knows how to handle setting up fights they want a certain person to win in, which may come up later since we're going to preview the Bellator 216 main card.
Yep.
Shouts to Valerie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that's what I had on the You're Welcome episode. It's just a really solid one, and I love me some old Team Quest stories, so pretty dope. You said you had a bunch of catches, right?
Yeah. Just a quick thing. I don't really have a skip, so that's why I kind of have a shitload of catches.
That's all right. I got a skip.
Cool. Should we get into that now, or should I keep rattling off?
Keep going, because I still have another catch, too.
Okay, cool. This one's also a new podcast that I haven't listened to before, at least I don't recall. Might have listened to a while back. Gloves Off Podcast with James McSweeney, who I believe was a former Tough 10 guy, a coach, or a fighter. I think he was a fighter. He's English, just based on his accent. This guy named Evil Eddie, I think is his name.
Oh, yeah, I've listened to this podcast. What am I talking
about? Yeah, I think I have too.
Wait,
is the host?
It's called Gloves Off?
Yeah, Gloves Off Podcast.
I wonder if they changed the name of it.
I think it did have another name when I saw on the website. I think they changed it.
I think it was Evil MMA at one point.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. He was on the Tough Heavyweight season with Brendan.
Yeah, McSweeney's a Tough 10 alum and an MMA coach for youth in Thailand. That's where he lives right now and trains kids and teenagers, which is kind of cool. He was talking about that, setting up his gym. This is a catch for me based on James's input and kind of breakdown of the main event for this card. I can kind of get into it later when we preview the UFC card that's going to be on Sunday. But he thinks Kane has the best gas tank from any heavyweight he's ever seen. He discusses Kane's preparation at AKA, which is, for those who don't know, the American Kickboxing Academy, the one that he trains at in San Jose. You should know by now.
What the fuck AKA is.
Yeah, and you should also know the other fighters who have been champions or current champions that train there. You should know this by now. And he's kind of curious to whom Kane brought in to emulate Ngannou's power. Not that anyone can really emulate Ngannou's power at this point. He thinks maybe Derek Lewis. I don't know, but I personally saw that non-fight.
Oh, boy.
He thinks Kane – I guess I'll get into this later, but just a quick preview. He thinks Kane has too much experience, and Ngannou's just game planning and kind of relying on a knockout in a stand-up exchange.
Wait a minute. You're saying Ngannou's plan is to punch somebody real hard in the head?
Yeah, dude. He kind of surprised me. I actually had to stop listening and kind of go outside and get a breather.
Yeah.
I was really kind of just
mind blown?
Yeah. It was just I just couldn't even breathe. I almost had an anxiety attack.
Understandable.
Like, damn. You know?
Yeah.
Because like I was so excited to see Ngannou fight, and then he didn't even throw a punch. So that's why I was like, wow. Fair. I didn't know what his reputation was. This is news to me.
Yeah.
So the only thing distracting about the podcast is that whatever they recorded it with, you could hear someone's mouse clicking, and software in the background sometimes.
Oh, so I'm sure it sounds nothing like our podcast where you can fucking always hear my mouse.
Yeah, like you can hear the sound on Skype when the call gets dropped. And he's like, all right, sorry, we're getting back James on the line. Yeah, then they discussed Anderson Silva, and they said, is he just fighting for fun at this point? I guess. I don't know. He kind of looked pretty relaxed in there.
He seems to sound like he's fighting for fun at this point.
And I kind of like his new approach to everything. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else he needs to prove. So that was another catch I had. The only
why don't you hold off on your other catch? Because I actually have another one as well.
Cool.
My other catch is the intro you guys heard. Originally, I was going to have a different intro for YouTube, where it was a clip that I'll talk about later, but fucking YouTube ruined everything. So instead, the intro everybody heard, well, actually, I guess if you're listening to this on YouTube, you didn't, since I started the YouTube recording late, but the intro for this podcast was the Heavy Hands episode 250, where Phil McKenzie and Connor Rebush talk about Cain Velasquez's, I believe what they describe as his beaching hook, or his beaching whale hook that he showed in one of the one of the pre-workout vids leading up to the fight, and how he's going to win the fight with a Free Willy finish and dive over Javier Mendez looking like Free Willy. It's fucking amazing.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that was literally my next catch, so you can kind of keep going on.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a fucking great episode.
For that reason.
That clip was one of the funniest goddamn things I've heard of all time. Let's see. Some other funny shit they said in that episode. Changing levels is hard when both your knees are made of paper clips. I wrote that down.
I remember that. What did they say? They said Cain at this point is like rolled up with juicy fruit as like an adhesive or glue, with like paper clips for knees, and they said something else. And like toothpicks, or no, what the fuck's that called? What's that? God damn it! When you go to the doctor's office with your kid, and they put like the popsicle stick in your mouth. There's a word term for that. I can't. Yeah, my vocabulary's off right now.
It's not like a tongue depressor, is it?
Yeah, that's basically.
But there's another word for it. Yeah.
Yeah, but basically, he said you have like a bunch of those stacked up, holding his back together. Which makes sense considering I don't know how many back surgeries Velasquez has had.
A bunch. He's had enough to where the Athletic Commission pulled him from his last fight for a back injury, which they were going to let Kelvin Gastelum fight. So I can't imagine how bad Cain's back injury must have been.
Oh, you mean Kelvin Gastelum, as they said on who said it? God damn it. I think it was Stephanie Haynes. Is it Hayes or Haynes? I can't remember her last. What did she say? Her and I was listening to Level Change and Mookie Alexander. They said they were grossed out by Kelvin's ringworm, and someone described it as his neck being pregnant or the back of his head trying to take a shit.
Yep. All of those things check out. It was real fucking bad. I showed you that first ringworm picture, but it got way worse around weigh-ins. Yeah,
the one thing is, while Conor McGregor is kind of just known to do whatever the fuck he wants at this point, I did kind of appreciate his tweet when they said somebody sterilized that belt. It's like, yeah, if I'm Henry Cejudo, I'm like, you can have that.
I appreciate way more Kelvin Gastelum's response where he says Conor's impregnating half of Europe.
Or do you think that, excuse me, that was probably Ali's response, but still.
I don't know. That seemed like Kelvin.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It was too well written.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't sound like it was like broken English with
because wasn't there
like a bunch of shit spelled wrong?
Didn't they mention it? And if I did it, I know they talked about last week that whole alleged assault thing that may or may not have involved. Excuse me, Connor, but isn't there something now with like a baby mama? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a baby mama who says that Connor is the illegitimate father who won't return phone calls. And also, there's hella evidence, including a picture of her and Connor together, where Connor has his hand up her skirt. I
gotta look this photo up just because that sounds really sad, but fucking also hilarious.
No, there's a bunch of them. Also, evidently, at one point, she said she sent him. There was screenshots of a text she sent him, I believe, also, where he was like, "Oh, that's a cute baby, but it's not mine." You're like, all right, dog.
So it's like he can no longer ask, "Where's Noah?"
Yeah, well, cocaine's a hell of a drug. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jesus. The one thing I did like about that Heavy Hands episode, getting back to it, is they talked a lot about Kane's slick use of single legs and foot trips, and how it could be a big problem in the fight for Ngannou. Especially since Ngannou, like, it's much easier. Like, that's a much more difficult style to fight off for someone who's not very experienced as a wrestler, rather than just like straight double legs from distance. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. They also talked a bit about Vic versus Felder. I forget which one of them made the comparison, but they said Courtney Casey kind of feels like a less evolved Condit, which I really like that comparison, where she's just kind of wild and dangerous everywhere, but also kind of just plays to whatever her opponent wants to do.
Yeah, I could see that. That's a pretty good comparison.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Phil talks a bit about how much biases inherently play into fight picks. So, like Connor, for example, loves journeyman dudes who are the least athletic, and Pat Wyman loves beach body fighters, and how like inherently that plays into picking bias. It's funny hearing that, especially since evidently I believe someone wrote in and pointed out that Phil's pick percentage is really good and Connor's is really not good, which is funny because Connor always tends to lean towards dudes who are the less athletic of the two, but have like the more well-rounded game. And a lot of I do the same thing, and a lot of times it does not work out well for your picks.
Yeah, that's just like my whole thing when it's like, oh, well, I don't know too much about this guy, so I can't pick him.
Yeah.
Even though that's like, oh, well, now we know who he is. That's how that works.
Exactly. Yeah, we mentioned the beaching whale hook from Kane, which is my favorite. They also talk Rivera versus Aljo, Caceres versus Cron Gracie, and Vicente Luque versus Brian Barberena. So, yeah, just a really solid episode and a good example of why Heavy Hands is hilarious and witty and clever, but also they do a lot of research, and they're very they just always point out stuff that I wouldn't have thought of when it comes to previewing cards. So
yeah, and then they point out things where it's like it needs to be in things that need to happen, such as like a co-main event featuring two lightweights who probably shouldn't be at that weight class.
Right. More
so James Vick, who if he probably moved it to welterweight, he'd be 10 times better. Not 10 times better, but come on. Like, look what it's done for some fighters. Like Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos. Just move up, dude.
Yeah, well, also James Vick they were talking about on MMA Road Show this week. He was looking real not good at Media Day.
I mean, I know Gaethje has power. He does, but it's like, the fuck do you think Felder's gonna do with those elbows? Like, come on, bro. I don't know.
If he can get inside, though, is the thing.
That's true.
Because if he gets stuck on the outside against Vic, he's fucked.
Yep. That fucking jab, dude, is nasty. So.
Yeah, that fight's real interesting. I'm excited to see it. Cool, man. Do you have any other notes on that app?
Yeah. I think it was Connor. He says, a lot of people kind of make fun of the fact of how tiny UFC flyweights are, but he's like, if you look at how boxing weight classes are, most of them are the same size as Manny Pacquiao, who's considered a boxing welterweight, which still makes no sense, considering welterweight is like 148 pounds. So go figure.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Also, apologies if you guys end up hearing rain in the background, because it's starting to rain super fucking hard out here.
Wait, really?
Well, Santee.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, that means it's... Oh, I hear it now. Okay. Outside my window, it's probably going to start coming down like fucking crazy. So.
Yeah, it sounded like somebody was pissing outside, and I was like, what? Oh, right. Forgot. It's been raining down here. It's been raining in San Diego. What the fuck? Also, speaking of which, I believe it was Leslie Smith was in town last week because she was like, I want to get out of all the bad weather and go to San Diego, and she came down here and it was raining the entire time.
I was going to say, if you're one of those guys that, hey, family, we're finally going to San Diego. Oh, fuck, it's raining.
For real. It's
imagine
raining.
Imagine if you're from Oregon or just Seattle or anywhere in the Pacific Northwest. You're like, well, I should have stayed home.
Yeah, it's rained here in the last 2 or 3 weeks more than it has in the last 2 or 3 years, I would say.
No, you're not kidding. Like, that's absolutely correct.
It's crazy.
Like I don't mind it, but I also work outside in an outside restaurant, so I'm not working.
Well, and nothing is ever built for rain out here. Like everybody just goes into full panic mode. Like my drives home have doubled in time because of the rain, because everyone has a fucking panic attack.
Yeah, people just, I mean, you already know people in California don't know how to drive as it is, but when it rains, oh boy.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see.
Anything else on Heavy Hands?
No, that was it for Heavy Hands for me.
I'll go ahead and jump. That was your other catch, right?
Yeah. Anything else I mentioned is just like a mention, or I do have a can't miss, but we'll talk about that later. Cool. But yeah, anything else I mentioned, just like a quick little mention. But
cool. I will go ahead and jump into my skip then. My skip. So my skip for this week is GrangeTV. And it was Robert Whittaker's post-234 surgery update that he did.
Was it just him kind of like on antibiotics and he's just like kind of really tired?
Yes, but that's not why it's a skip. It's a skip because the fucking co-host is so... As someone who has fought with video all day today, I can for sure tell you anyone who's ever filmed anything ever would not have made these mistakes. Let me just list them off. Number one... The phone is way too far away from Robert, so the co-host is super loud and Robert is barely audible. Number two, the co-host filmed the video in portrait mode.
Oh, cool.
Wait for it. Sideways. So it's in portrait mode, but it's also 90 degrees to the right.
Meaning that like you have to tilt your fucking head, or mean that it's like it's further away?
Nope.
And also...
I mean, it's both. Yeah, it's literally sideways. Like, you have to look... If you turn your head 90 degrees, then it's right ways up and still in portrait.
So now we're all just someone's pet fucking bird tilting their head to the side.
100%. Oh, don't worry. It gets better. The chat points it out. He then rotates it 180 degrees, so it's still sideways, just the other direction.
I was hoping he'd say the upside down.
No, but... Eventually, they make fun of him again enough that he fixes it and leaves it, at least it's not sideways anymore, but still in portrait mode. It was so fucking frustrating. At one point, he literally says that just don't watch and listen and imagine what Robert looks like. Real frustrating. Yeah, that's really the reason it's a skip, is because it was just so fucking frustrating to hear that. Robert was great. He talks about the lead up. They did mention that he actually knew ahead of time that he had a hernia, but he didn't know what it was. They went in and got scans a couple different times, but by the time he was having pains and stuff throughout the camp, but by every time he went in, the hernia would go back into his body because it's an internal hernia. So it would go back into his body and it wouldn't show up on the scan. And so that was like a repetitive thing throughout camp, evidently. And then when he cut weight, it just got bad enough that it like was basically they told him, yeah, you have to go into surgery. He also got a throat infection in the hospital, so his voice is kind of fucked up.
Damn, that dude's had a rough fucking week.
For real. He did mention he's meeting with the surgeon again next Monday, kind of as a checkup, so it'll be interesting to hear what we hear out of that. And then he made the comparison, which I'm sure you've seen around the internet this week, where he made the comparison that Gastelum walking around with the belt was, I believe he called it cute or adorable, one of those.
Yeah, I think it was adorable.
Yeah, and then he said that it's like when a kid finds their dad's work belt and walks around with it on.
Yep, that checks out.
Real good. And then he talks about the idea of him being stripped and whether or not it's fair and all that stuff. He was great. His fucking co-host needs to figure out how technology works. But then again, I'm the idiot who can't figure out how to get fucking video streaming to work, so maybe I shouldn't throw shade right now.
Yeah.
To be fair, I mostly blame fucking Skype because they're so goddamn protective of their shitty software that they won't let anyone screen cap fucking Skype, or at least not easily. So, yeah, overall, I mean, it's mostly just a skip because of the ridiculous video bullshit. Cool, man. So why don't you jump into the MMA podcast you recommend people can't miss this week?
So my can't miss is also a new podcast that I've never listened to, and you texted me to listen to it today, which I did.
You wanna? Okay, yeah. So this is my new show as well. It's really fucking good, right? Yeah,
I liked it a lot. So this is where's my fucking notes? Holy shit! Oh, here it is. God damn it! It's called Weekly Scraps, hosted by bantamweight fighter Aljamain Sterling, bantamweight contender, 9. Whatever you want to call him. Episode 9. All right. So I think he kind of starts off. I didn't write everything like as he was talking, but he discussed it was great, and this was kind of said amongst a lot of other podcasts too. It was great seeing Anderson Silva still show us some of his old stuff in his repertoire, whatever you want to call it, in his fight against Israel Adesanya. Mostly, if I were to discuss it, which I said I wouldn't really, because the card last week was not good.
Well, and it's the only fight you watched.
What's up?
I said, and it's the only fight you watched last week.
Well, yeah, and that fair. Too. He entered the Matrix, as a lot of probably casuals who've never seen him fight would say, or unless someone said, "Hey, watch this guy fight." Still had a lot of elusive. He was very evasive. And even Adesanya kind of showed some of that too, and they were kind of playing off of that with the whole fucking what is that Bruce Lee stance when he did like the come at me kind of thing with his palm.
Yep.
But yeah, he was really psyched on that fight. He talked about the hype train that is now rolling of Jim Crute, who I believe is an Australian fighter. I don't think he's.
Have you heard about Jimmy fucking Crute?
Yeah, he landed a left cross, which left Sam Alvey on wobbly legs. But then Mark Goddard. What did you think of that stoppage?
It was a little early.
Didn't Alvey give it like a thumbs up, kind of?
He 100% gave a thumbs up. And all the shots were landing to the arms. I would have felt better about the stoppage if he stopped him when he fucking clobbered him on the feet. Yeah,
that's what I thought too.
On the ground, Jim Crute was hitting a lot of forearm, so I would have liked to see it go a little bit longer. Especially since Sam Alvey's one of those dudes who, like, yeah, he's shelling up, but also, like, what the fuck else are you supposed to do for that moment in time? Like, he could try to explode up, but it's going to make him super fucking vulnerable. So he literally was shelling up with his thumb up. So it's like, it wasn't the best stoppage. It wasn't the worst stoppage. It was unfortunate for sure.
I remember Aljo said he was surprised. He talked about I guess it's Ronnie, not Hani Yahya. I guess I don't know if I've been saying it. Ronnie Yahya, his fight against Ricky Simone. He was surprised that he didn't see Yahya throw more wild exchanges to kind of go into that level change into a single leg, which is what he likes to do.
Yeah, and Yahya
I didn't see that fight, so I can't really say shit.
Yeah, Yahya definitely found some success just throwing fucking haymakers. Because, I mean, it's when you're trying so hard to get the fight to the ground, and that's what the opponent's expecting, you're going to land some shit if you just come forward and throw bombs. But he also basically airballed a lot of that shit, too, so... one thing that I thought was funny that he brought up is the quote-unquote record that Ricky Simone has for subbing Merab at the 5-minute mark. And Aljo's basically like, what the fuck? You can't sub somebody at the 5-minute mark. That means the fight's over.
Yeah, the fight's over.
What the fuck does that mean? Which I thought was pretty good. It's basically because the ref called it after the fight ended. So Aljo said technically he called it at the 5-minute and 59-second mark, if anything. Which it's not wrong, but yeah, Simone definitely had a really good fight in that performance. Also, one interesting thing that Aljo mentioned is that Merab pinched a nerve in the takedown against Simone when all that started. So that was interesting to hear because I hadn't heard that yet.
Okay. What I thought was interesting too is I think he started discussing some sort of plant protein diet. Or I think it's something that he was on, right? Because he was talking about if you have like a plant protein-based diet, which, by the way, I've kind of been experimenting with, believe it or not. I made some pasta. I got like some, I think it was like wheat pasta or like gluten-free or something. But the meatballs I got were all plant protein-based. And holy shit, those motherfuckers with the plant protein know how to emulate like, beef.
Yeah, that stuff's gotten real good. Like all the Impossible burgers and all that stuff. It's gotten much better than the Morningstar days of when I was vegetarian.
Yeah, and I've also been drinking a lot of stuff with like ginger or like turmeric. You know that because I know if you have too much turmeric, you can actually die. So I'm not gonna try to measure. I know you can measure. Oh,
what? You're not gonna try and poison yourself with turmeric?
Yeah, I could. But basically, it's just golden milk that you can buy like in farmers markets. It's just coconut milk with turmeric and ginger. It doesn't taste too bad, but it's been helping because me and my skin problems. My skin's been a lot clearer now because it's all anti-inflammatory. So that shit's definitely been working. So
that's true. You and my dog Seamus, all the fucking skin problems.
And I've been drinking way less, which has helped out a lot too. Because beer has a fuckload of grains.
Hell yeah.
So that doesn't help, but beer is so good, so fuck me.
100%. So some things I really liked about Aljo's show is, number one, he's so fucking good at hosting solo.
Yeah, he was able to kind of fire off, and I didn't really hear too many pauses.
No, yeah, he doesn't or a lot like I do and like everybody else in the fucking world does.
Yeah, because I remember I've been taught if you're not supposed to go you're supposed to be silent.
Right.
But if you're doing that on a podcast, you're probably going to confuse half your listeners because they think either the sound is dropped or...
It's better than me who goes, every time I'm trying to think of something. So, see, I did as a joke, and then I said because I didn't know what I was going to say next. It's a bad way of doing things.
You just trapped yourself.
I did. I 100% clowned myself and then gave a great example of why I'm an idiot. One thing I did really like, though, is he breaks it up into segments. I believe the first segment is the Weekend Rewind, where he does the recap episode. Then he does segment 2, which is what's scrapping, which is the MMA news. And that's... God damn it, now everybody's going to listen every time I say that. Let's do it again. So, at one point, he uses the quote, "Were Egyptians super jacked and ripped back in the BC era?" Which was real good.
That is pretty clever.
God damn it. Also, when talking about Conor's response to Gastelum, he used the quote, "Why don't guys wear rubbers? I mean, you're Conor McGregor, but goddamn, wear a rubber."
That was fucking funny, and that's a very valid point. I get it. Not every chick, if they're not on a pill, has a fucking IUD implant, because that shit costs a fuckload of money anyways, but still, that's just a valid point. Yeah. So,
segment 3... I believe was the main scraps, where he previewed the upcoming Kane versus Velasquez card on Sunday, and then segment 4 was the leftovers, where he answered some questions. That's where he talked about the amino acids and proteins and stuff, since he has an undergrad degree in physical education. So it was just a great episode, and I'm excited to listen to more.
Yeah, I'm excited to listen to more as well. I think he'll have a lot of his New York guys, his camp on there. I imagine Chris Weidman's going to show up on there. There's no way Raging Al's not going to be on there.
I was going to say
to some extent, because I think most of those guys out of that camp they share a lot of the same. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like they're all just very sharp in the way that he was and how he carried himself. Yeah,
and they're very him and Al. I feel like are perfect host and co-host, because Aljo is very tight with the way he structures stuff. He's good at just keeping the conversation moving, kind of Bill Burr style. And Al is all over the fucking place, but hilarious. So I feel like they would play very well off each other. And the little bit they did on Al's old podcast, Call Me Al, was super funny. So I'm hoping they do more episodes together going forward.
Fuck, how many episodes did Al's podcast go?
Only like 3 or 4.
Is probably just something to do with just his schedule around everything else, right?
I think so, yeah. He's super busy between all the real estate stuff and training and fighting and cornering Aljo and all that stuff. So.
And you probably saw, did you see that he formally invited Kevin Lee to start training at Sarah Longo or Longo Sarah?
I didn't, but that's interesting.
Yeah, he tweeted him saying, "Hey man, I really respected our wars that we had. I know you're kind of in a tough transition with your camps and what happened and all that in the past, with Robert." He didn't mention, with Robert Follis, but, that's obviously had a huge impact on Kevin Lee. And I would hope it would, because it's someone that you're close to. It's your
definitely
coach.
Has, yeah. And Al has mentioned on podcasts in the past that he thinks a big part of the problem Kevin's having is he doesn't really have a camp the way, and the structure that he needs for a camp right
Kevin
now.
Lee is way too talented to not go to a top camp, and that would be so interesting if he went to Sarah Longo.
Yeah, I think
For long distance.
they would. Number one is cardio would get way fucking better, which is a big problem in his career right now.
By the way, Kevin Lee declined. He said he basically said, I appreciate it, but I'm okay.
I mean, I kind of figured he would, but
yeah, I don't know where that guy's gonna go. There's camps in Vegas. Like, is he at Extreme Couture? No, he was. No, I'm almost 100% sure he's there right now.
Okay, I always mix up Extreme Couture and the other Vegas camp.
Because I like Kevin Lee. I know he was that loss to Al frustrated the fuck out of him based on his social media and calling out John Jones of all people. But I think I hope that guy figures something out. I like him too much as a fighter. I like watching him fight.
Yeah,
I know he turns some people off with his attitude, but he's a guy. You're a fighter, bro. Like, come on.
Yeah, I like his goofy swag that he brings to everything. His brother is kind of the same way, but like a little bit less over the top. He's been on MMAJunkie Radio with Kevin a couple times. I think his name's Keith.
It is Keith, because I remember, shouts out to Will Harris and Anatomy of a Fighter again. I remember he did one. It was Kevin Lee training his younger brother Keith. It was really interesting stuff. So
cool, man. Well, I guess we'll get into my can't miss. I'll keep it brief, but it was just really fucking good. Menace and the Man, episode 15. You guys, I don't know if anybody knows about Dennis Bermudez's podcast, but it's so fucking good. Like, number one, he's fucking hilarious. He might be one of the funniest fighters ever. His timing and delivery, especially on podcasts, is hilarious. He's constantly clowning himself and his co-host. He's like bantering back and forth with a bunch of the guests and talking shit, but also like letting them make fun of him. It's just fucking great. Ashley Evans Smith calls in. They talk a bit about how she has the upcoming fight against. She's fighting KGB Lee, right?
Yes, she is.
Yeah, so Ashley Evans Smith calls in. At one point, Dennis Bermudez asks her how tall, or he's like, "Oh, you're taller than me, right?" And Ashley Evans Smith says, "Yeah, but everybody's taller than you, Dennis," which is super fucking savage. Also, shouts out to you. He calls Dennis Bermudez calls Manny Bermudez his cousin, even though it's totally not.
Yeah, that was funny because I can't remember what podcast it was. They kept mentioning Bermudez, and I was so fucking confused at one point. I was probably a little high when I was listening to it, because here's a quick shout out to just myself. When I listen to podcasts, if I'm not, I mean, I can't read, listen to podcasts. I'm usually just playing a video game of some sort. It's either something like MLB The Show, where I'm just fucking playing like
Legends.
Yeah, no,
actually, that one you can't, because
I can't, because I'm in a party.
Audio.
Yeah, I gotta talk to people. No, it's usually something I could just fucking chill and still listen to, passively listen to something. But usually it's MLB The Show. Shouts out to Road to the Show. You just play as a pitcher and you just listen to podcasts. You just strike people the fuck out, and that's it. But I think this time I don't know what the fuck I was doing, but they kept saying Bermudez. I'm like, dude, didn't he just retire? Like, what's going on? And I looked at him like, oh, Manny. I'm like, I am so dumb. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, Dennis also said he's going to try and get Manny on at some point. So that should be interesting. And god damn it, Dennis is just funny. So Ashley talks a bit about being vegan. And Dennis does drop at one point that he wants to start doing the show live. So I'm kind of excited to hear that. He said he had some trouble figuring out how to get it to stream live during his last one. And I fucking feel you, bro. I fucking feel you so much on that front. Also, Dennis said at one point that his dad tried to convince him that he should be able to, like, his dad should be able to call Dennis's corner in between rounds to give them info.
Yes.
He's like, my dad's never fucking fought. Like, he's fought in the street maybe 2 or 3 times, and that's it. But he was like, oh, Dennis, I really think you should let me, call your corner between rounds to give him information. Which, number one, I don't think you're allowed to have cell phones in the corner, but...
Yeah, actually that's a good point. I've never really thought of that. Like, can you have your phone with you?
I believe what's his face pointed it out. The co-host. God damn it.
Because that's like some fucking baseball
Stan.
Shit,
Co-host Stan. Yeah. No, or football is what I would have gone with. But yeah, that's why everybody covers their fucking mouth in football.
Yeah, with the play call sheet.
Yep. And then after that, Jessica Penne calls in, which is fucking great. She immediately starts making fun of Angie and calls her out for always being late.
That's great.
And then Angie shows up late, which is real good. Angie at one point teaches Dennis about hard liquor since he knows nothing about it. Angie's like, oh, I mostly drink whiskey. And he's like, what, like Hennessy? She's like, what the fuck, Dennis? Also, Dennis almost made a joke. He's like, so Jessica Penne says, oh, Angie's always late. And Dennis goes, is that because... Nope, not going to do it. And his goes like, oh, you were going to say some fucked up shit right now, huh?
That's fucking great.
And then right after, like not long after that is when Dennis makes the joke about Hennessy, which he thought Hennessy was a whiskey, so that's why he said it. But Angie immediately jumped on him like, do you really just say I fucking drink Hennessy? Like, so she teaches him what cognac is and all kinds of stuff. They also make fun of his taste in wine a whole bunch, which is real good.
That's fine. That all sounds. What is it? Menace and the Man?
Yeah, Menace and the Man, episode 15. It's fucking great.
Because I remember, I don't think I've listened to his podcast. I've seen his cooking show that he had for a bit on YouTube. I don't know if he has it anymore.
I didn't see that. That is probably really fucking funny. He's legit one of the funniest fighters I've ever heard. He's super fucking funny.
Yeah, I remember I enjoyed seeing him on The Ultimate Fighter. I always forget. I think he was on. Oh, it was season 14.
It was a TJ season, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
was that the live? No, the live season was...
He ended up not making it to the main cast, because I thought... Oh, no, he did. He did.
Did he fight,
He fought, I think, Jimmy Rivera, and, like, the prelims.
Oh, you might be right.
When Jimmy Rivera was a featherweight. And I think Jimmy Rivera beat him?
Maybe.
I can't remember that season. I gotta watch that again. I always say this time and time again. I gotta go back.
You're the one person who's like, yo, I should watch more Tough. Everybody else is like, God, they should stop doing Tough.
I know. But then again, it's like me watching the old season, which you know are already fucking good. So it's all hindsight, you know. I don't want to. I'm not saying everyone, hey, let's go ahead and do a new season, but do this. Like, no, I'm not. Trust me, I'm not advocating for that at all.
Oh no, you know what? He fought Diego Brandao in the finals of that season. That was Bisping versus Miller.
That's right, he did make it. Yeah,
so
because I know TJ lost to John Dodson because John Dodson still talks about that, and still, John, no one gives a fuck.
Yeah, and if I remember right, that was I believe in that fight he rocked Brow pretty bad, and then Brow ended up catching a straight armbar. Or maybe I'm getting that backwards. I know Brow got.
No, I mean Brow definitely won, and something like that happened.
I remember it being a wild ass fight. But yeah, it's just he's super fucking funny. He also talks about his Twitch stream, and him and Angie are gonna hook up.
I'm actually on Twitch right now because I was like looking up. I was like, wait, which fighter's on there? I remember Wonder Boy. It looks like he was just playing Apex. I'm not gonna play it because I don't want to mute it. But you already know that motherfucker's probably playing with Stipe and John Vellante for sure.
Yeah, I believe Dennis's is Menace Bermudez on Twitch. Also, if you guys go to the Sound of Violence Live on Twitch,
it is there. I see it. Yeah, Menace Bermudez.
If you look at the Sound of Violence Live channel on Twitch, we're following I think every fighter that has a Twitch stream, at least all the ones I know of. So if you want to list of those, go check that out.
We still should do some sort of I know we do commentary shit, but we should probably at some point we could always do some sort of Twitch episode if you want.
Oh well, we're eventually fucking. Thanks for bringing up video streaming again, Chris. But we're eventually going to be streaming our episodes live on Twitch and then broadcasting them to YouTube. I just have to figure out how to fucking get around the goddamn issues with OBS I'm having.
Yeah, because I know as far as PlayStation goes, because luckily I also have PlayStation. I'm one of those fucking nerds. I have both Xbox and PlayStation. I know you could stream, I think, directly to YouTube or some shit like that.
Yeah, you definitely can. But the way we'll do it is we'll end up streaming from OBS, and we'll actually do all of our episodes live on Twitch too, and then we'll game it up.
Some Apex, brah.
Yeah, brah, which I still haven't even booted up. I've had it downloaded for a week, but it's been a hectic week.
You're definitely gonna like it. It's honestly one of the most like seamless fucking. It's so crazy. Like what they basically are like, hey, let's just watch all these other fucking games compete against each other. Let's look at all the things that they don't do, and let's just do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, they basically made Overwatch
It's basically Overwatch with Titanfall setting and guns, and then with Rainbow Six as far as like kind of like the communication.
Right.
It's pretty fucking great.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. But yeah, that was most of the stuff they talked about in that episode. Also, Ellenberger called in at one point where they talked a bit about him being retired.
Was he high?
That's hilarious. They talk a bit about... Shouts out to Joey Diaz if you guys haven't seen those Church What's Happening Now episodes. The second one's much more manageable. You'll actually hear Jake talk instead of just be like, oh, and then not say anything for an hour. But yeah, Ellenberger calls in, talks about... they both talk about their post-career diets, and that Jake is also going to be on next week as well, because he was only on for like a short amount of time since they went long with Ashley Evans Smith and Two Straws. So yeah, just a fucking fantastic episode. I can't recommend that podcast highly enough. Like, that podcast and Aljo's podcast, I feel like are two podcasts that nobody knows about, and they're both very fucking good for being so young in their output.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's a fight I'm looking forward to as well. They're both fun fighters. I'm not going to mention what everyone's thinking about right now, so yeah, but still looking forward to that fight.
For sure. Let's see. Did you have any other podcasts you wanted to give a shout out for this week?
Shouts out to Fights Gone By with Jack Slack. He said, "What on earth was that card? Last week's card. Worth buying for, with the exception of the main event." He said Kelvin Gastelum had a twin growing out the back of his neck. How is he cleared to fight? That is absolute bullshit.
Yep.
He said the GOAT status is overrated. He said Silva and Adesanya still have some of the best variety of strikes around. Silva can still feint very well. He said besides all the bollocks and steroid suspensions aside, main event was very entertaining. I agree. Other than that, shout out to Half the Battle with Daniel Levi and Shaq. Now I'm going to go into what they were just talking about, just basically fight versus every fight preview. They were saying this guy versus that guy, that kind of thing. Other than that, If I Did It, shouts out to them. Eugene talked about he had a long story of how he almost had sex with a woman in a hotel who ended up having scabies, so he had to get the fuck out of there. That sounded very gross.
Yep.
He just said, Kid Nate was thinking Romero and Izzy should fight, even though I think Israel would get crushed like an aluminum can. Nate wants it just so you can see what Izzy's truly made of. Eugene says we would be Sukajuing him, so please no.
It's a great comparison.
Yeah, so that's all I have left as far as quick shout-outs.
Some ones I wanted to shout out. The Bellator Vivisection is fucking hilarious. You'll actually hear a clip of it on the upcoming break, because it's super fucking funny about how they basically Bellator could have made one great card between Bellator 215 and 216, but instead they I believe they said they stepped on the product as a subtle Coke reference. It's real good. You guys will hear it. They also just broke down the cards. It's a really solid breakdown. They made a bunch of Eduardo Dudu Dantas puns that were very fucking funny. They talked about the wheels falling off of Eric Silva, Juicy Crow Cop, whether the Mohegan Commission actually tests or not. Which, I mean, yes, they do test, but also...
Did they just test those guys? Or at least I saw something.
No, they super did test those guys. And everybody's like, everybody says Bellator doesn't have good testing. They have good testing. It's like, yeah, they have IQ testing. But when Mike Mazzulli, the head of the athletic commission, says exactly when he's going to Croatia to test Crow Cop, and he's going by train, and he gives a specific date, that's not legit drug testing. That's, once again, IQ testing. So, I don't know about all that. Also, Crow Cop is looking real juicy. So, we'll see how that goes. The Halfcast Podcast was going to be our intro for the video part this week because Dan Kelly is on. This was almost a catch for me as well. Dan Kelly guests on the episode with Tyson as normal, and he talks about his start in judo. They talk a bit about being on Tough and how booze is free in the Tough House, and Ty immediately says like, "Oh, that wouldn't be good." They talk a bit about blacking out in fights and like just not remembering parts of it. Like Ty said he woke up during the Dos Santos fight with Dos Santos on top of him in mount, And then he
Oh, wow.
And then he quote unquote tried the old BJJ. Which just meant punching from the bottom, I guess. Yeah, Dan Kelly said he lost 45 minutes of time when he fought Brunson.
Holy shit.
Yeah, like he remembered walking out, and then he remembered being in the ambulance, and he doesn't remember anything between those two things.
Dude, that's gotta be depressing. It's just basically like you're drinking.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
Binge drinking, excuse me, but still.
Speaking of binge drinking, at the end of the episode, Ty does a shoey out of some random guy so they're recording out of the Harley Davidson, like some Harley Davidson shop. And Ty does a shoey out of some random guy's work boot that looks fucking like an old-ass work boot. And Tyson and Dan do shoeys off of their flip-flops. Then they get some random guy from the audience to do a shoey out of his gross-ass looking shoe on cam. So
I remember I was showing my brother Kyle the fucking cowboy doing the shoey.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
And I was like, hey, so go ahead and look at the socks, because I get it. It's not your shoes you should worry about, it's your socks. So look at the state of your socks right now. Would you do a shoey out of your shoe? He's like, fuck no. And I looked at the socks, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't either. I have some still kind of new shoes that I have, so I definitely would be able to do a shoey, but still, I can see why people are turned off by it in general.
Well, so even worse, the guy that came out of the audience to do a shoey, no socks on.
Oh, boy.
So it's way worse.
It's real fucking stanky.
100%.
Jesus Christ.
Let's see. Slip and Dip, episode 88 was really fucking good. They talk about Kelvin's goofy ass with the belt walking around, and why champ versus champ fights are getting old, which shouts out to the MMA community forum for that fucking thing.
Oh god, that went down a rabbit hole of that one guy who sounded like he's at least 50 saying weed is bad.
Heath Von Doom's just a notorious troll. I thought you were originally talking
about... I was gonna say, like, there's no way this guy's serious.
No, he was fucking around. That's also why I eventually commented saying,
just based on he called it like the devil's something, the devil's lettuce, and I was like, there's no way. There's no one's gonna really talk like that. He's just fucking fake.
Yeah. He's trolling like a motherfucker.
And then I knew he was trolling once. He said, "How dare you diminish what Connor did first?" Which at no point in that article did I ever say Connor was the first.
I think that was somebody else in the thread.
Was that somebody else?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Somebody else in the thread said that, like, oh, Connor da-da-da. So,
which was funny because all that is just Connor stands like wanting attention. It's like, yeah, I never said that. I just literally said who has been double champ. That's all. I just made a list.
Yeah, it's super funny. Let's see. So on that episode, it's really good because Walt Harris Skypes in, and he Skypes in from his gaming setup. Like, so he's streaming on Twitch now. His name on Twitch is Walt Harris 205 UFC, and he talks about like just gaming. He talks a bunch about Apex Legends and NHL games, NBA 2K versus Live, and all that stuff. So he talks also training with Deontay Wilder and tells a story about partying with John Jones. He goes, "Oh man, I got a story. My wife ain't gonna like it, but I'm gonna tell you." He talks about how his wife got hammered in the club and John's security had to take her back to the hotel.
That's great.
It's pretty good. And I think he partied with Flo Rida during that night too. And he does talk a bit about how he got popped by USADA. And he hinted that there's going to be a ruling pretty soon that it was tainted supplement. At least that's what it sounded like. So
okay.
So and he seemed very genuine about it. Like it seemed very legit. And then he talks a bit about unions because they bring up Kendrick and Matt bring up unions, and he's like union stuff, like. There's some positive stuff. There's some negative stuff. And then at one point he says, "Uncle Dana, if you heard me, I love my job. You're not pimping me out in any way, shape, or form."
Which is fucking great.
Fucking good. And then Max Griffin calls in to talk about the Alves fight, which was that close decision. And how
the one that he won.
Yeah. Which I agree. Yeah, I think he definitely... It
was a close fight, but he won.
I love when people are like, "Oh, it wasn't a robbery." It's like, motherfucker, that's not... what the word robbery means. Like
robbery means that person literally fucking won the fight 30-27 or like it's definitive and then he loses.
Even then, no, not even. if he should have won and he lost, it's a robbery. It's just because someone has stolen stuff from a bank and they made out with millions of dollars. If someone just takes your watch, that's still robbery.
Yeah.
It's not like
if someone takes your lunch, it's still robbery. Because now you can't eat. You gotta buy fucking food.
The fact that people like to qualify that shit with like, oh, well, it's not a robbery because it wasn't significant enough.
The funniest one I see, the funniest one I will still always see is TJ Dillashaw got robbed against Cruz. I'm like, holy fuck. Yeah. Just please never watch MMA again. Yeah, please don't. Don't do it.
I mean,
just don't.
Yeah. It was a close fight, though.
Yeah, very close fight.
But that one literally was a coin flip, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Collapse MMA did the Shine Fights 3 Part 2, which is real good. I recommend checking that out. UFC Roundtable with Jack Encarnacio and Jordan Breen for the upcoming card in Glendale, I believe it is. The Ngannou vs. Kane card that's on Sunday. That was good. MMAJunkie Radio episode 2858 was very solid. Justin Buchholz calls in talking about training Cynthia Calvillo for her fight, and he talks about working as a coach and why it's fucking overrated, and being a coach for fighters is kind of a fucking dumb plan. Macy Chasson, or actually, sorry, first, oh no, you're right. Sorry, I was right. Macy Chasson, sorry. I've almost had her name right this entire time. It's Chasson, not Chasson, is the only difference, and that's because it's the New Orleans pronunciation, not the French pronunciation of Chasson. So she calls in, talk about her upcoming fight and against Gina Mazzani, and working down at Fortis, and she's real excited about going back to New Orleans for Mardi Gras and Po' Boys and King Cake, which I fucking feel you, Macy. I fucking feel you. MMA Road Show episode 203 was really good. They had another crazy Phoenix Uber driver, evidently. Oh, maybe the card's in Phoenix this weekend, actually.
No, I think it is in Phoenix, yeah.
I know it's at the I almost said Candlestick Arena. That's super wrong. It has a weird name, though. Walking Stick? Nope. Talking Sun? What the fuck where is this card? Here, let me look.
I think it's in Phoenix.
Drive me fucking nuts. No, it is. Okay, I said Walking Stick and Talking Sun. It's the Talking Stick Arena.
I just remember Kane wrestled at Arizona State.
Yeah, it's in Phoenix.
So he's an Arizona guy.
So on that episode of MMA Road Show, they did an interview with Sean Wheelock about karate combat, Lateway, Roy Jones Jr.'s boxing league, and some of the stuff they do for that. Also, Oscar Willis from the Mac Life guests on it, which is pretty good. And yeah, it's just a solid episode. Super Rad MMA Show, episode 15 was good. Those guys are funny. They're from Northern Ireland, which I didn't know. But yeah, they're good.
Yeah, they're. I mean, mostly because they're Irish, they remind me of Severe MMA.
Yeah, well, yeah, different
little
slant.
bit.
They remind me of Severe MMA meets like Slaphead and Giraffe or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the Fight Nerd episode 29, Ashley's very funny, and it's a good episode. So recommend checking that out. Also, you get to hear Ashley butcher the hell out of Russian names on the Bellator card, which is worth it alone. So yeah, those are some pretty solid episodes. Is there any well-rounded show you want to shout out from this week?
Yeah, I listened to a little bit of Your Mom's House with Danny Brown.
Exactly, that's mine too. It's super fucking funny.
That was good. I didn't catch the Big Daddy Kane one yet.
Me neither.
But I didn't realize Danny Brown fixed his teeth, right? Didn't he used to have like really?
I didn't watch the video of it.
Yeah, he has like a good smile now, which I just always remember that dude kind of being like.
Oh yeah, he had that
throwed out with like a really fucked up front teeth, but I'm pretty sure he fixed his teeth. Yeah, or something. But yeah, he looked like he's cleaned up pretty well nowadays, man. The guy was real relaxed. Everything. He enjoyed being on there. I didn't listen to the whole thing.
Did you hear the part about what the fuck is his name? The fucking weird guy. Who they're obsessed with. Oh God.
Are you talking about the Try It Out guy?
No, there's this guy who's like super gay but not gay. God damn it!
Fuck.
What the fuck is his name? Here, hold on, I'm pulling it up. It's super. Oh, Hard Rock Nick. Okay, well, it sounds like you haven't. Everybody go check out the...
I can't recall, dude. Like, that's how it is for me. Like, if I'm going to watch it, I got to sit down and watch it. But I had it on, like, in the background, and then I was watching a little bit, and I was just kind of like, I was casually watching
So
it.
there's a clip compilation of them talking about Hard Rock Nick, who's like, he's some fucking guy who says he's a billionaire and is constantly weirded out by how chicks don't want to bang him. It's fucking hilarious, and Danny Brown is very funny in regards to it. So recommend checking that out as well. It's very good. It's a great episode of Your Mom's House. So we will go ahead and wrap that there. Then we will be back here in a minute to break down quickly the Bellator 216 main card, and then to break down this Sunday's UFC on ESPN 1 Ngannou versus Velasquez card, which should be a lot of fun. So listen real quick to this clip of... Oh, God, what was the clip? Oh, right, Bellator Vivisection, talking about how these Bellator cards are kind of like stepped on coke. Cool, let me save that.
File, save, and...
Oh, my God. I'm glad I took a couple shots because I was so fucking distressed when we started this thing because of all that video bullshit.
Yeah, it sucks to do that crap.
What
episode are we on?
It'll be... I think we're going to use Discord next week. I think it'll make it way fucking easier.
What are we on, by the way? 10...
something. Also, I should stop the YouTube stream since this is all still going out. Hold on. Let me hit stop on that.